My lovelies, it is 12 minutes after 1 o'clock. This is Power Lunch on Power 98.7. In just a few moments, we're closer and closer to that exciting Supreme All-in-One Coatings competition moment where one of you will win 2,500 Rand worth of prize courtesy of Supreme All-in-One Coatings. That's right, we're taking and talking all things crispy, golden and delicious. It's happening at 14:07, and I hope you've logged on to Power 98.7's website to register and proceed to get yourself the Supreme All-in-One Coatings. Stay tuned to take the quiz based on the Supreme All-in-One Coatings to win the ultimate prize. Brought to you by Supreme All-in-One Coatings for delicious, consistent, deep-fried flavor. T's and C's apply.
Learn something new and connect with like-minded contributors in health, wealth and relationships. This is Power Lunch
with Pabi Moloi
on Power 98.7.
I want to hear from my peers. I want to hear from Bo Mangwane le Bo Rakgadi, who are the rich aunties, who don't have children. You can't be an auntie. You don't have a womb. Must we start this lesson from the beginning again? Okay, Oza, a man and a woman. So I want to hear from you if you have reached a certain age and you've decided not to have any children, or it has been decided by you, unfortunately by nature, not to have any children, or if you have just not met somebody who is compatible enough for you to have the trust to have a child with, which I really think is such an important thing to think about before you have a child with anybody on this planet. Let me know what your life experience is. Let me know what they say kochai when you go back from Msebenzi and the big aunties now, because we're the little aunties. The big aunties ask us questions around, when the babies are coming. If you're married and you've decided not to have children, if you're not even deciding to get married, I want to understand the psychology of what you feel when perhaps your womb is tied to your worth. When deeply in our cultural and social context, there is an unspoken of, hugely pressurizing need to be a mother. There's a push. If you're a woman, it is natural. You are here to be a mother. So I spoke about messages from the big aunties, so that's in our family. But we see it in tradition, we see it in religion, we see it in media. It's kind of the pinnacle, people think, of female identity. And so I'd love to talk to you about your experience. I'd love to talk to you about maybe some things that you've, had told to you as perceived insults or attempted insults. And if you have those comebacks, I want to hear those as well. I want to hear about your life too. What's it like not having a kid? How often do you go on holiday? Let's talk about it on 0861-987-000 as we welcome our Educational Psychologist Dr. Nombuso Gama onto the air. Dr. Gama, it's lovely to talk to you again. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Papi. Hi to Power Lunch listeners as well.
So this one can be quite an explosive topic, eh?
Yes, very.
Yeah. And tell me about, if we go kind of back in time and think about where this germinated from, why do you think the idea of a woman's worth is so tied to her ability or even desire to have children? Why is it still so entrenched in society today?
Okay, so we cannot understand people out of their context. So given that we are in an African context, one of the things that guide us is patriarchy. Patriarchy says a woman's role is to be a mother and a wife. So which means that the moment that she does not fulfill those roles, then there's going to be some sort of outrage because she's rejecting the script that the system has given her. And for those women that could not meet up, could not be mothers or wives, society looked at them from a perspective of pity because it was usually women that could not, for various reasons, have children. So then we are starting now to have more voices because I don't want to say they are just coming up now, but more voices are being illuminated of child-free women who are saying, I do not want to have children, not because I don't have capacity to, but because I choose not to. So all of that then creates the outrage to say, why are you deviating from the script that we have been given? Because as far as society is concerned, your role as a woman is to be a mother. Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting. You talk about almost an assumption that the reason why somebody can't have a child or a couple can't have a child is because of the woman, usually, right? And
Absolutely.
I'm wondering how many tests have happened that show that fact to be true. Because we know it can happen on either side, right? The mom's side or the dad's side. So again, the blame of not being able to conceive is put in the woman's womb, thus entrenching how useless she is if she's not able to have children, regardless of whose fault it is. It's so interesting. From when we're very, very young, I remember as a little girl, there were dolls that were babies. And there was a little bottle, and then you feed the baby the bottle. I'm talking about like 5 or 6 years old, hey? And then there's a little nappy, and the water goes through, and then you have to change the nappy. If you know, you know. Those were the dolls that were available. Now, I was such a tomboy. I had no interest in any of that nonsense. I wanted a BMX. I wanted rollerblades. And so that's what we did. But I know of those dolls, which already from such a young age are entrenching the psychological perspective that here is your purpose. This is your role, Emhlabeni. And it's such a pressure on women. And so talk to me about, yes, the pressure, but what if you cannot have children or you choose not to have children, yet you still feel this immense pressure?
You will always feel the pressure because you live in a society that promotes motherhood. So you will always have those questions of, so when are you having a child? What's happening? So you'll always have to respond to those questions. But also, you just need to understand that sometimes people are asking because they don't know any other thing apart from what society has always been promoting. So it may sometimes be malicious, but sometimes it's just out of curiosity to say, why aren't you following the script? Because we've been given a script and But of course, it's harder then if you are childless, so which is the demographic that wants to have children but cannot for whatever reason. Exactly, because while a child-free woman can push back and say, no, I don't want to, but a child-free woman struggles with shame around that issue because this is something that the idea of not having children makes them feel less than, because this is something that they want to do. And the constant questions from society perpetuates those feelings of, I am not good enough. I failed as a woman to attain whatever standard of womanhood that society puts up for women. Because the thing about having a child is that it seems to be like a rite of passage for women. which is unfair then for women that are childless, that don't have capacity
and
to
would
give back.
love to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm loving this new generation who will tell you, I can't have children. Thank you very much. I had a fibroid that exploded, and then my womb had to be taken out at the age of 23. Thanks for reminding me of that. And they'll say that, and people will feel so, you don't have to be so rude. But actually, your question is very rude. When are you having a baby? That's a very rude question. Thank you very much. And so it's very interesting from generation to generation to see what kind of pressures, what kind of responses, the conversations. And I want to ask about that. Have you noticed a difference in how the motherhood pressure shows up across different cultures, classes, and even generations?
It does, especially when compared to maybe Caucasian cultures versus our African culture, because as I said earlier, ours is more patriarchal. So that line of you need to have a child is more entrenched versus more Caucasian cultures where it's all right to not have children. It's a choice. You don't want to or you do want. But also it shows up in terms of generationally, in the sense that our mothers and grandmothers did not have any thought about being a mother or not.
Sure.
But for us, now we are able to say, do I want this extra pressure of having 3 children, which we can recognize the moves, the changes that have happened in terms of women's rights, which has come because of those rights to say, now we have a choice to say, do we want this or not? That is why then your younger people, kids that you were talking about, younger emerging adults can tell you, no, I don't want to have a child. My womb was removed, because there isn't as much pressure for them to have children compared to 2 or 3 generations before us.
That's very, very interesting, and quite an evolution, I think. And it'll be interesting to hear what callers we get on this. So 0861 987 000. We'd love to hear from you. And you can also send us a voice note if you'd like to remain anonymous, or if you feel any kind of way about sharing your story and would rather do it via voice note, then please do. 083 303 7093. Here's Pumlani, who's on the line. Hi, Pumlani.
Hi, ladies. Are you good?
Good, thank you.
Pardon?
We're good, thank you, Pumlani.
Awesome, lady. So I've got a goddaughter and a daughter that always thinks they're doing the trip. So I always tease them when they're around. So I'll say to them, look, you can't wake up at this time, because one day you're going to have a...
Pumlani, we can't hear you at all. I don't know if you're in a kitchen or a toilet or what's happening. And
No,
can you put the phone almost directly to your mouth so we can hear you?
Now, how is it now?
That's much, much better. Go ahead.
Much better. Okay, cool. So I'm saying I've got a goddaughter, the daughter, they're both teens. So from time to time, I will tease them if they wake up late in the morning on a weekend. I would say, hey, look, one day you're going to have a husband and children. Like you can't wake up late when you are running a household. And they will laugh. And I could tell from the laugh that they have no interest in bearing children and no interest in having a marriage, which is all nice and dandy. But at times, I feel like the reason why I do this, the shaming, it's because a human being is kind of like a function of time. You've got Pumlani, a toddler, Pumlani, a teen, Pumlani, a professional. But I'm going to get old at some point. At some point, I'm going to be in an old age home. My value in an old age home will be tied to visitors. How many people come visit me? What do I mean by that? Like, in the UK, there was a case, I think last year, where a lady got pregnant. This lady was in hospice. She got pregnant. She's in old age. And people couldn't understand why.
She was pregnant in the old age home.
Pardon?
Are you saying she was pregnant in the old age home?
No, in a hospice.
Oh, in a hospice. Okay, all right. So almost palliative
in a
care
hospital.
or
My
a
point
home.
Pardon?
A home. She was put into a
Come again?
home. Go ahead, Pumlani. Finish your point.
Yeah. So she got, and one of the reasons why this lady was abused is because people in that hospice, in that old age home where she was kept, they noticed that this person does not really have visitors. So meaning you don't have family. What I'm trying to say to young girls is they need to think about their future also. There's a concept of menopause which serves a purpose. There's a reason why we have menopause. And there's a reason why men don't get menopause. So I feel worried when I see young women who waste their youth in pursuing careers and they delay having babies.
I'm sorry, Pumlani, that was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So they are wasting their lives pursuing careers.
Not okay. Maybe that's. I've got a bad selection of words. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say, Papi, is the reason why we shame women is because women who don't want to have babies is because to have a baby, a sentient being to produce another sentient being, that's magical. That's a godlike ability. So to see a woman who's got a godlike ability, who doesn't want to put it in use, I feel like it's a shame and a waste of life.
Okay, thank you. I think we've heard enough. Thank you, Pumlani. Thank you very much. I counted. I think he used the word shaming 2 or 3 times, which I think is interesting. I also think it's interesting that Pumlani is a gentleman phoning in to tell us about, what his opinion is on women's issues. And this is what we're discussing. So Pumlani is showing us an example of what happens out there if you do not have your life lived according to Pumlani's plan or somebody else's plan. And I apologize, but it just jumped out of me to hear somebody say you are wasting your youth on a career. I found that to be like quite shocking, right? Because then why do we go to school? Then why do we have dreams and ambitions? It's very, very bizarre. So are we waiting for somebody to come and to come and, I don't know, to come and what? Feed us? I'm not 100% sure. But there we go, Nombuso, the shaming aspect. And then, here is he says that you're a waste. You're wasting your life because you are magical and you're not using your magic.
Absolutely. But also, here's the thing that Pumlani and other people like him do not understand, is that women can have that magic that he talks about, but they have a choice to bring children into the world. If they don't want to, they have a choice not to bring them. So just because you have that magic in quotes does not mean that you are obligated to bring a child into the world. But also there's this thinking of who's going to take care of you when you are old, which I find to be a very selfish kind of thinking, because it basically says we are supposed to bring children into the world in order to serve our needs, which is exactly the problem that is predominant in society, because a lot of people bring children into the world and they do not think about, am I treating my kids in the right way? It's almost like, no, I'm just using them for my final days so that they can come and take care of me when I'm old. It's a very selfish way of thinking about children, and it shows in how a lot of people do not consciously parent their children, do not care about the needs that their children have. All they care about is, what can I get from my children? Can I use my children to get supply?
That's
to say,
sad.
I have 5 kids, I have 10 kids, without thinking about whether am I meeting my children's needs or not. So yeah, but also once again, Pumlani is just that he called, but he demonstrates what other men
so many
in particular are thinking about this topic, where it is like, no, because they are all patriarchal to say your job is to be a mother and be in the kitchen. What are you doing at work? Because you are wasting, in quote unquote, your youth doing those things, when women have a choice. They have a right to be and to do whatever that they want with their life.
It's also just very interesting to me then, the next conversation is women are gold diggers, right? So now we didn't go to school, we didn't learn anything, we didn't pursue a career because this magical husband is also going to come. But then what if he doesn't come? Then what have you actually done with your life?
Exactly.
Which I don't understand. If you're this magical creature who can create life, yes, but perhaps you're a magical creature who can stand in front of the Supreme Court and defend people. Perhaps your magical creaturedness is to be a surgeon and save people's lives. There's so many other things. So I think that's a fascinating way to look at it, disguised as a kind of, this is the biology of life. I mean, he even talks about menopause as if it's scary. It's not scary. It's a phase of life, So anyway, I just found that very interesting, and I love how you put it and reiterated that so many would think exactly like Phumlani. May I ask this, power people? Can I hear from the women as well? This is a conversation for all of us. And, we often hear from our power gents, who we love very much. We love you and we appreciate you. But may I ask also for the rich auntie's take? May I ask for the questions that you are asked when you go home? May I ask for you to call in as well, to explain to us what it feels like for when a woman's worth is tied to her own womb. 0861987000. It's time for our headlines.
Speak up. Call the Power Line on 0861 987 000.
All right, that is what you can do, and I'd love to hear from you. The psychology of motherhood pressure, when a woman's womb is really her only worth in this world. And you may think, what an archaic way of thinking, but this is happening right now, every single day. We just heard it on the radio. About being shamed, about being told that everything else that you do is a waste. In fact, you're wasting your life, your 20s in particular, if you're not having children yet. And I also wonder then who's going to take care of all of these children once you decide to have them as your magical birthright. But Dr. Nombuso Gama is our educational psychologist who's on the line with us, and we'd love to hear from you. Tsepo is on the line, Boniswa is on the line as well, and then we've got a few voice notes as well. So, it's obvious how these pressures then impact a woman's self-esteem and identity, especially when it doesn't happen on time or at all, and then wait for it. The other side of it is if you're 21 and you fall pregnant, or you have a teenage pregnancy, somehow that's frowned on. So where do you win in this scenario?
You don't, because society will always shift goalposts on women. So there's no right way to do things at the end of the day. So that is why it's important for women to exercise their choice and understand that whatever I choose to do with my life, I'm willing to be shamed for it.
I'm willing to be shamed for it. I love that. I love that. I'm willing to be shamed for that. I just think of those two little girls who he wakes up in the morning to prepare to be mothers. They're like 6 or 7 years old. Let them be kids. It's fascinating to me. Tsepo, you're on the line. Hello.
Hi, Pabi. How are you?
Great. How are you?
No, good. Pabi, look, I feel as men, we're very selfish to ourselves to then put pressure on our women for having kids and all that. If a woman is a career woman, it's a career woman. My wife is a IT architect. She works like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And there's days that you find she can't even talk to us in the house. So I need to make sure that I assist. I go to the kitchen, I cook. And then she relaxed also because the stress that she has is different. And then after that, then I'm going to put pressure on her that, look, you need to be a wife, you need to make sure that there's kids, you have kids. We've got girls now, fine. She found me with girls, and then they're teenage now. They are doing the cooking also. On Sunday, they did a very good cooking because she was actually leaving for a conference, and then they decided, no, we want to cook, and then they did a wonderful meal for us in the house.
Sweet,
You know,
yeah.
so we can't always put pressure on our wives or our girlfriend to say, I need to have a child so that I can prove that you are a woman. At the ultimate end, you find this woman with her career, and then you're not going to change her from what she is to where you want her to be. You rather assist her to actually prosper in her career, and then to make sure that the house is warmly and then it's lovely, because today's life does not even need us to have one salary in the house.
You can't.
You need to make sure that you both balance,
Yeah.
and then if you can't, then as a man you must know that you're going to suffer the rest of your life.
May I ask this, and upon introspection, sorry to make this radiotherapy, Abu Tsepo, but the fact that you already had 2 daughters, I wonder if that had any impact in the way that you perceive the interaction in your marriage with your wife.
No, look, Pabi, my wife has actually gone through she had fibroids. Immediately when we got married, she has to go to an op, take the fibroids out, and then after that, then she went for a treatment. Then they said, no, your I don't know, the valve or the pipe are closed or something. So she can't. So now, I think on her side sometimes she wishes that, you know, she can have a child.
Yes.
And then we always have that conversation that, look, I'm not going to put pressure on you. Here's the kids here. I mean, I've got 3 beautiful girls and then 1 boy, and then the boy is now turning 6 this year. So she is a very good mother to that boy. That boy, when she wakes up in the morning, she will call her, Mama, come to my room. And then, you know, so for me, I don't see it as a kind of, you know, an issue.
Yeah, a make or break. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
No, I understand on the side that there's a pressure also, maybe from home, that your mom, you know, would always say she wants a child, and then I always tell her that, tell your mom that we are not ready. And
as long as you've got her back, I feel like it doesn't matter what the world says, as long as you've got her back. Doctor, thank you very much, Tsepo. Dr. Gama, I mean, I just thought perhaps the pressure was taken off of him in some way because he already had children, so he didn't have that pressure, because maybe the next conversation is about the pressure to be a dad, you know? And so that kind of took things off his plate with his new wife. I wonder what your thoughts are.
Absolutely, especially because men are also pressured in different ways. There's this legacy conversation to say, who are you going to leave in the world and all of those things. But he has ticked off that box. So he's all right. He's okay with, okay, I do have kids already. But then also, he is also an open-minded husband to say parenting and marriage will look differently for every family. Maybe all that my wife can do in this season is to parent the kids that are already there, and we find fulfillment in that. So I find that very beautiful of him, and the fact that he's calling out the selfishness amongst other men when it comes to these issues, because women are just not about their wombs. Look at him. He appreciates other aspects of her, and he recognizes that she's such a powerful woman in her own way. She just doesn't have kids, and that does not stand in the way of her power in any way.
Here we go. We've got some voice notes that have come through. Let's have a listen.
Okay.
Yo, Pabi, I'm just listening to Pumulani right now, and I'm like, what on earth? It's because of men like that some of us don't actually want to have kids, because our only purpose in this world is to have kids. For one, I'm a doctor and I help a lot of people every single day of my life. So that's my purpose on this earth. I don't need to have a child to prove a point to men like Pumulani. And you can't just have a child with a random stupid man like him. I'm sorry to say this, but wow.
I had a different experience. I've a sister is 6 years younger than me, so I was always the older brother and kind of the, I don't know, the tip of the spear. 6 years is a big difference. And then later, when my sister had children, I found myself, my family and particularly my father and my mother, like, became less interested in me because there was now a new breed, and I didn't have. And I think it plays part of the ego wanting to leave behind a legacy in terms of genetic seed and code and nonsense like that. So, but I do think we're rapidly advancing in our thinking, and the more this conversation is coming out, it's going to empower women to take on all, and I believe there'll be a very positive effect on men as well, because men are often subjugated to the same kind of societal nuclear family pressures. Yeah, life's long, eh? So a lot of this system was also predicated on a life expectancy somewhere around 30.
Yeah.
And we are now living well into our 90s, are we not? Or maybe even centurions. So the recalibration of the whole system is required.
I love that. I love that so much, Dr. Gama. I think it's so interesting, the idea of wanting to leave a legacy behind, first and foremost. I think it's quite a little bit of an adorable story that, once the new grandchild came in, you're persona non grata, forget about you. And so that might be a pressure in itself. But also the idea that we have different needs in 2025 to what we had in the 1800s, they say the 1900s, like 1927, 1999. But we have different needs now than ever before, right? I think it was 1970 when a woman could get a credit card herself without a man. You couldn't have a home. You couldn't do so many things. So you needed to be paired up, and to kind of establish that pairing, children would be involved. Whereas now women don't need that, and we all need to move forward into the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other truth is a lot of child-free women, like the first voice note from the doctor, a lot of child-free women have thought more about having children than women with children. This is why they have strong points for why they just don't want to have children, because they have thought, for instance, about their capacity to have children. They have thought about their careers and motherhood penalties that come with having children. They've thought about their welfare, children's welfare, and the funds that come with that, which have all driven them towards making decisions of, I do not want to have children. Unlike our mothers and grandmothers who had children out of necessity, because they had to stay in someone's house, and that someone had to have children in order to feed them, somehow. So, yeah. It's an interesting shift.
It really is an interesting shift. I mean, I always wonder then also about this question, or this seeming insult of you're too selfish. You're too selfish if you don't want to have children. You only think about yourself. You're career obsessed.
Once again, patriarchy punishes, actually, let me say society punishes outliers. So if you come with an idea that society doesn't promote, then they will find ways to gaslight you for that idea. So yes, being selfish is one of their gaslighting terms. And like I said, be okay with those terms, because you know why you don't want to have children. You can't prove that I'm not selfish by having children, when we just had a call where someone was saying they want to have children because they want children to take care of them at their end of life. So that's also a certain level of selfishness. So you just choose your struggle.
Yeah, so who's selfish here? Pick your lane and keep it moving. I always just think that there's so many people on earth. So actually, wouldn't it be less selfish? Make sure there are no more people on Earth or fewer people on Earth so that we can continue and have access to things like food and water, etc. But that's just my thought. Boniswa, hello.
Hi, Pabi, and hi, Jeff. I hope you guys are doing well.
Welcome.
So, I don't have kids yet, and people who have kids, I'm like, how do you do it? I'm just a baby myself.
But aren't you in your 20s, Boniswa?
I'm 33.
Oh, that's basically your 20s, yes.
Basically, but also it's for a number of reasons. I do want to have like a whole lot of kids, but I think some of us, we spend so much of our youth like trying to break generational curses and stuff. By the time you are right, now you're old, and now you need to be an adult. But I think over the years, now people buy when you don't have kids, because parents are going through the most, and I think that's why I had so much empathy when I was an educator, because I'd be like, how are we getting the same salary and you got 3 kids on hold on a call? Things like that. When I'm just enjoying my salary.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I need more. But I think, I'm enjoying it. Yes, perspectives change. At first, I used to have a very negative perspective
about having children.
Yeah, because I was just looking at the examples I had. So I thought it was pretty selfish that some of us are just born unprovoked and then we just here on this planet, and that's also pretty tough. You don't have to be here, really. And once you're here, you kind of got to make it work.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like unlearning those things per se. So it's also just like changing my mindset. But now I can't wait to have kids. I think I'm going to go like Rihanna with the kids.
I know. Boom, boom, boom. ASAP won't stop. Thank you, Boniswa. Thank you very, very much. Dr. Gama, that's a very interesting point that we kind of overlook, right? One of the reasons that a woman may want to not have children is because you've seen mothers struggle. You've seen the motherhood penalty. You've seen how expensive it is, and you just don't want that for your life.
Exactly, and that is valid. Hey?
Yeah.
Because, those are things, they don't sound nice. Like, you don't want to put yourself in a space to struggle. So most of people's decisions around whether to have children or not have been informed by some sort of trauma. So, for instance, we have issues of children that were parentified while they were young, which then caused them to change their minds about having children because they had to parent their siblings and all of those people. So now society turns around and says, why aren't you having children? Because children are exhausted. Some of them still take care of their siblings even in adulthood. So this is just an invitation for society to say, maybe we need transformational conversations around supporting mothers, because that could then change how we see motherhood. Because a lot of mothers, like she says, are exhausted. Yet it's like, have a child, and we don't care what happens after that, but have a child.
In the States, there's the whether you are pro-life or whether you're pro-choice, right? So pro-choice would be, you can terminate a baby or not terminate a baby. It's your choice. And then pro-life is that baby must be born. At conception, that's a soul. The baby must be born. And the question that I see often, in international media and the discourse is, but then who's responsible and who will help that mother care for that child? Because we don't have the kind of, and maybe we're lucky here in South Africa, there are laws around leave, there are laws around UIF. But, how hard we've had to fight to have a place in the office that you can even lactate, do your breastfeeding in, or any sort of thing that is considered a motherhood penalty. People don't think about that. You just think about what you want, but are you willing to care for those mothers and those children?
Exactly. it all boils down to society glamorizes motherhood. Society doesn't care about what mothers go through in their journey of being mothers. It's just like have children. So whether their careers are going to be affected or not is immaterial as long as they have children, because as far as society is concerned, woman is equal to mother.
If I could tell you the unglamorous things that have happened to me as a mother, how much bodily fluids have flown into my face and into my hands, and having to make the bed 3 times because somebody's sick. You know, the amount of brand new pants that come back with holes in them because we were playing soccer. And you can't shout at a person for being a young person. You can't. That's not how I want to raise my person, you know. I don't know where the glamour is. If someone can show me where the glamour is, I'd love to see it, because it is a rigor.
Absolutely.
And a rigor that eventually you do get that real feeling of, oh my gosh, there's nothing better than this, right? I'm in that phase now where, and I have been for the last 8 years, let's not lie. But it is a rigor. It is absolutely a rigor. And I'm just fortunate, I think, that I have only one, and I have the best one, said all parents ever. Sillo, you're in Mamelodi. Hello. Dumela.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Fine, thank you.
It's great. Bona, man. It's not make things are very easy. People are just making things complicated. Look here.
Who's making things complicated?
When I heard Horono, they said Musadi decided not to have a Tirabana.
Oh, okay.
You understand?
No, not really. Go ahead.
Okay. What is happening is when Kitomo Kopana le mme wa go high, to decide, decision is as a man. I'm deciding I'm going to marry this woman. This is going to be my wife.
Got you.
My plans and everything, they are on the table before we get married.
Yes.
Before we get married.
Yes.
My plans, this is what I expect out of the woman I'm intending to get married. It must not be a surprise. Really inside of marriage, somebody I should know before Ronyala or no, my plans are Suraban. Then knowing or no.
Or Uskatzena in the first place, because hasn't told you how.
Yeah. If not decided to no man, I need kids. Then that guy pause and trail like I
But there's nothing complicated about that. That's a bit of communication. She tells you what she wants. You say what you want.
Yes.
If, like Kubega, it's fine. If not, it's also fine.
No, what I'm saying, that idea of her not having kids, it's while it must not.
Okay.
Before I got married to her, I must know she doesn't want to have kids. Then Nakia decides, okay, maybe I love her. Sometimes we think that the emotion, I love her. Then, okay, I'll get somebody and there will always be somebody who can do kids for me. Then I don't expect kids from her. You understand? We don't have to put each other under pressure. There's no pressure here. We just have to be basic, refining information before marriage to say, na plan 7, 8, 9.
Nice.
And then really join. And then if they don't link, then
okay, thank you, Sidlo. Thank you for that. So Sidlo says if he finds out halfway through his marriage, or if he loves her and he still marries her, but he'll go find someone else to go have the children with. Doc?
So I liked his first idea of people must have a conversation about children before getting married, because that is very important, because that aligns with people must get married if they have aligned values. Okay.
Yeah.
But the idea of, okay, we'll get married and then I'll go and have other children outside is problematic, because you are invalidating that woman. Just go and have kids with people that have kids and don't bring her into the setup if you do not like that kind of package that she comes with, instead of dragging her into the whole chaotic situation. But otherwise, yeah, people must talk about children and if their partner wants to have a child or not.
This one says, hi, Pabi. As a guy, I won't marry someone who I can't have kids with. That's why I discuss these things with my partner. These are the conversations we must normalize before committing to each other. So quite a few people are saying that, and I think that that's absolutely true. G is in Rudapur. Hi, G. What up?
Hi, Pabi. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. So I must say thank you so much for the topic and the guest. I think I have been educated a lot, especially about the context. So I am a 45-year-old, unmarried and child-free by choice. Yeah. And I live a very purposeful life. I think Pumulani was a classic case study. I had the same experience with a sort of Pumulani at a family event. This guy says to me, during the people, if I can put it that way, what's wrong with you? You're a nice woman. Why are you not married? Are you lesbian? Are you barren? Everybody else listening. So I think for me, because ordinarily I'm a very calm person and measured, and like you were saying earlier, to say most of us who are child-free have really thought through the reason why we don't want to have kids. For me, it was a matter of I wanted to commit my life to empowering young girls. So I've got a mentorship program. So a lot of my time, I've committed it to it. And I thought to myself, if I'll have to have a child, I know myself, I'll spend a lot of time with my kids. So rather let me commit my life to that. So that's the purpose in it. And I don't normally, entertain the question, but I'm just saying for other women who had children that I knew, it's not because they wanted to, but it's because they couldn't stand the societal pressure. So I think it's just also that lack of education to say sometimes before we can say things, we must think about how it impacts other people, because it might have lifelong impact, sometimes negative. Sometimes it's got children who are abandoned because people had children not because they wanted to, but they were under societal pressure. But thank you so much.
Ginning. For how long have we been saying people must be careful? Please watch your words. You could. That's why this generation, like I said earlier, are so great, because they will literally said, "Oh no, I was kicked in the stomach by a horse," and then look at you.
I love them.
For your reaction, because what are you asking, So I'm sorry you had to go through that, and I'm so excited that you made your own choice, G. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Great show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. G, we are done and dusted. How do we get hold of you?
You can get hold of me on TikTok at Dr. Gama, Psychologist, and Instagram. But also you can send me an email at gamabubu@gmail.com.
Brilliant. Dr. Nombuso Gama, Educational Psychologist, on Power Lunch this afternoon.